I don't know how they were reviewed, but I have a huge soft spot for Theme Hospital, but I don't know
I've got a story about Theme Hospital, which I've probably said on numerous podcasts now. But my wife's sister is the voice on the Tannoy.
No.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So your wife's. So I can remember one of the things about that game is whenever I tried to put a cheat code in, it would always say the hospital administrator is cheating that, and that was your wife's sister.
That is Sarah Green, my wife's sister. Yeah, because she was dating one of the guys who worked at Bullfrog at the time.
Yeah,
and she was a drama student and actress. Yeah, and so they got her in to do that.
I mean, this is a long shot, Dan, but if she could ever record something for this podcast, that would be absolutely insane.
Send me a line or something, and I'll see if she's going.
Yeah, that would probably be like the niche, because I know I listen to a podcast that has what's his name? Steve Downs, that does the Master Chief voice. I listen to a podcast that has him introducing the podcast. Our version of that would be the Tannoy voice off Theme Hospital. That would be absolutely incredible.
Hello, this is Mark. I'm doing this in post, which means after the recording. You knew that. Just to let you know that unfortunately, midway through the podcast, our guest's mic switched to the webcam, and we didn't realise. So the quality takes a dip, and he apologises, and we apologise, and we hope it doesn't affect your enjoyment of the podcast. With that said, cue the music.
And welcome to Pushing Buttons, a gaming podcast with plenty of salty opinions. This week we're going to be adding some pepper to that salt as we have a very special guest. But today we're going to be covering some news, some listener emails. We got another top 10 in. But first things first, we have a very special guest, the fantastic Dan Maher. Hello, Dan.
I'm going to add some vibes. Hold on.
Oh, he's giving a clap. I'll give a clap as well. Woo! A two-person clap, what you've always dreamt of, Dan.
Thank you very much. It's the first time I've been described as peppery as well.
You can add that to your Twitter bio if you want.
Little bit of spice.
Some people might know you as MrPointyHead. Is that
those who followed my porn career?
Yeah, I was going to ask you where the name arose, but I feel like I don't need to anymore.
Is it Silent Hill? That would be my guess.
No, so funnily enough, it was when I went to Tokyo, my first ever trip to Tokyo, which was 2005, and I love an artist called Takashi Murakami, and he had a statue in Roppongi Hills which was called Mr. Pointy and the Four Guards, and I adopted Mr. Pointy for a while.
Yeah.
And then over time, I basically forgot if it was Mr. Pointy or Mr. Pointy-Head, so I just added the head. So it's now a bastardization of that statue, basically. Yeah,
right. Okay.
Yeah. Tongari-kun, I think it is in Japanese, but yeah, that's Mr. Pointy. So that's
nice.
where I got it from. Yeah, it's not some weird physical deformity.
yeah. I was going to say from videos and such, you never had that pointy head, so I never really connected the dots. It is weird how old names that you come up with in younger years just sort of stick. Like my Xbox gamer tag has stayed the same since I was about 12.
Sexy Snipes or 69, is it still?
Well, you're not far off, but it is incredibly innocent, but it has really it's got me in some dodgy situations in the past. Basically, it's crazy Kyle Katarn, and Kyle Katarn is a character from Jedi Knight.
Yes, love those games.
Yeah, but I spelt it. Kyle Katarn is of course 2 Ks. I spelt the crazy with a K as well. So the acronym is KKK. Which was totally I was totally oblivious to, but many times playing Halo 2 and 3, people were not too pleased when I would turn up in the lobby representing KKK. So anyway, Dan, that
was the last episode of Pushing Buttons. Thank you so much for
Spotify. Well, you're going to have us kicked for that.
Hang on, I'm just going to remove my fist from my mouth. Right, let's go.
You can talk again. So Dan is a huge pleasure to have you on the pod. First up, you surviving lockdown okay?
Loving lockdown. We had a bit of a pre-podcast chat as we were wont to do, and we sort of generally agreed that for the gamers, this has been a bit of a golden period.
It has. It's been a boon for the industry, really, hasn't it?
If only
Absolutely.
we had Cyberpunk on time. That's all I keep saying.
It would have been ideal.
I've got my Animal Crossing. That's all I need.
Yeah, although we were saying that we've struggled to pick it up again after absolutely diving in really hard for 2 weeks.
Me and Mark went in hard on Animal Crossing, but we gave it up. But you said you're still going, Dan.
Still going strong. Yeah, I'm in what's commonly known as maintenance mode now at the moment, which is sort of you've got your island how you like it, but there's just things to tidy up, and you want to check in on the shops and just see if there's anything new. And has Red come back yet? Has he bollocks? Things like that. And now I'm just obsessing over trying to get every single type of hybrid flower. So I've just got all these sort of like weird grow operations going on all around my island. But yeah, it's a crazy place. I've got a gym. I've got a Japanese garden. I've got a playground. It's nuts.
I mean,
important question, Dan. Sorry to cut in, Badham.
Sure.
Time skipping or no time skipping?
I did early on, mainly because I play with my daughter, who's like 4 years old, and I've been using it kind of also as a bit of an educational tool. So catching insects, catching fish, finding the fossils, all of that. Like, she's the first 4-year-old I know who can recognize a Queen Alexandra's birdwing. So she got to a point when she was like, there's sharks in this game, aren't there? There's got to be sharks. And I looked it up and I was like, yes, but they don't arrive till July. And this was back in April or May.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we time skipped over so we could catch her a whale shark and a hammerhead and some stuff like that. But and the only other time I used it was when I realized I just completely messed up the layout of where all my neighbors' houses were. And I realized that every time you needed to move a house, you had to wait a day for it to move, and then you did another one. So I basically condensed 14 days worth of building relocation into a day just to get it done, because it was just like there's certain elements from like, come on, just let me get it done.
That's what I did.
So Dan, I first got to know you through Xbox 360, where you would appear on my screen with SentUAMessage on the Inside Xbox channel.
Yeah,
back in the day, that's how I first got to know you. And since then, you've gone on to create Explosive Alan, the video production company. But how do you sort of get started in the kind of games industry? Did you work, am I right in thinking you worked for PlayStation before Xbox? Is that right?
Yeah. So I started in 2001, which is kind of giving away my age a little bit.
We'll blur that out.
I've got a very big birthday tomorrow. It's my big 40. It's my 40 tomorrow. So yeah, terrifying.
I would say congrats. But I don't know if you want congratulations for that.
Yeah, is that?
I'm actually pretty cool about it. To be fair.
Okay.
So no, it's all good. But no, I kind of just wanted to do it since I was able to remember, to be honest. I used to read the games mags back in the day, like Your Sinclair User, Crash, Computer and Video Games. Like, I just devoured anything I could get hold of. Yeah. And I just love that kind of community vibe that you got from games mags back then, where you got the little bios of all the writers. Yeah. It was just like, oh, you get to play video games and you get to write about them and you get to hang around with people who are like your friends as well. And it's not just a typical job. So that always just held this, I didn't know at that point they were all making about 10p an hour, but that, that was by the by at that point. So I just made strides towards that, like in terms of my studies, in terms of what I did at university. And I founded a game section for the student paper at my university the University of Central Lancashire in Preston. Kind of co-founded that with a guy called Matt Hill, who's now editor of Digital Spy. So he's done all right for himself as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we were a fucking power duo, man. Yeah. So it was that. And then I literally, I graduated in July, August of 2001. I did some temp work, applied for a job in London for PlayStation as a staff writer on the PlayStation.com site for PlayStation Europe.
What did you study at uni?
I got it. Journalism and English literature.
Great.
So everything was just, even like doing the game section on the student paper was probably more beneficial to my my chances of getting that role than actually just doing the degree. The degree was the bit of paper, but actually doing it practically.
You had the experience,
and it just showed that I had the wherewithal and the gumption to just do it off my own back in addition to my studies as well. So hopefully that's what got me the gig.
Great. That's good to know. I mean, I think me talking personally, I think I was exactly the same as you in terms of growing up and thinking, I wish there was some kind of job that could involve me talking passionately about games somehow. And somehow I fell into being an all-male a cappella group, so things took a little bit of a turn. But it's great to hear that you had that desire and you sort of made it happen. That's a really great thing to hear.
Yeah, and from nothing really. I mean, I lived in a fairly rough part of Wolverhampton back in the day. Until I was 18 basically. So I didn't really have any connections or anything like that. So I was just very enthusiastic and very just into and very knowledgeable, which is kind of what I've been known for throughout that, is that I've just maintained that kind of encyclopedic knowledge of everything, especially on the console side, especially the Japanese console side. That's definitely my bag.
Yeah.
And I just haven't really lost it. People think that when you get into the industry that's kind of what kills your love of what you do, because you're seeing behind the curtain, you're seeing how the sausage is made, but it just doesn't really pan out like that.
I was going to say that you're not coming across as jaded or like you're still going, you're still in the industry. And
I keep all that in the office with the other guys. There's certainly a lot of old hack, cynical, chat going on. But speaking as a fan, like I still get. Every time there's like a Nintendo Direct is announced, I'm just there with everybody else, just getting absolutely hyped.
So that was about a year ago then you got hyped for a Nintendo Direct.
Hey, what about that Pokemon one?
Oh yeah, we talked about that. That was a good time.
That was a thing.
So you're still very much an avid gamer, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. Like daily. You can't stop me. Ask my wife. You can't stop me.
Get her on, Dan. We need proof. Well, that's good because we like to talk about games.
Good.
We've started a new thing literally as of last week where we say, hey, let's have a catch up. What have you been playing this week? So Dan, what have you been playing this week?
I'm trying to remember what I've been playing this week. I've been playing a great deal of stuff from the eShop because every time they have a massive sale, I just grab a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm just trying to think what I've most recently. I've really enjoyed the sort of double whammy of scrolling beat 'em ups that I picked up recently. Streets of Rage 4.
Oh yeah.
And also River City Girls as well, which is don't sleep on River City Girls. It's really good. It's a sort of a part of the River City Ransom series, which is much better known, I think, in the States and Japan. But typically developed by Japanese developers, and this one's been picked up by WayForward, who've done tons, and also disappointed at a Nintendo Treehouse recently when they announced a Bakugan game. Everyone was very sad because everyone's like, "Oh, WayForward, a new Shantae game or something." It's like, no,
that wasn't dealt with particularly well by Nintendo in terms of getting the hype levels up.
No, absolutely. And there's another game that I'm trying to remember. I got it really recently, and it's basically I want to call it Severed. It's not Severed. Sundered. There you go. The game is called. Yes, the game's called Sundered, and it has this. So Thunder Lotus have this incredible hand-drawn style, which kind of reminds me of like the Don Bluth games that used to get like Space Ace and Dragon's Lair with a bit of Ralph Bakshi, who did like Lord of the Rings, the rubbish animated Lord of the Rings from way back when. You can sort of still see the sketch lines on some of the things, and the bosses are like literal sort of screen filling things that shrink your character down to like a few sort of pixels on screen. It's really, really good and really underrated. I think it was partially kickstarted, and I got it for about $5 in the eShop sale.
Oh wow!
And just absolutely smashed through it like recently. Really, really good.
Oh great!
Hunt Down, 16-bit shooter, started like an old Mega Drive, Super Nintendo kind of RoboCop versus Terminator era. Has that appearance. Awesome. So yeah, I'm absolutely smashing through tons of these.
I mean, this is great because we want to start a weekly segment where we kind of recommend a sub £15 game, and I think you've just smashed 3 out of the park there, Dan.
I can give you many, many more. Yeah, just let me know.
Okay.
Should we change the segment to Dan Mayer's under £15?
Yeah.
If you just message in every week.
Yeah, I'm well up for that, yeah.
That'd be sick. Like,
Gladly.
Straight in from Dan.
Well, I'm genuinely on the lookout for some new Switch games because I haven't actually been on it for that long. So
have you not been playing those 51?
The 51
Clubhouse games,
51 Clubhouse games collection. Is it, how many games are in that again? Is it 51?
So just to clarify, it's the one with 50. It's got 51 games in it.
Oh,
and they're in like one collection of games.
And it's roughly
one
51.
Game, but there's 51
games
there's
in it.
51 games in it.
That sounds like incredible value for money.
It does, Dan. It does, doesn't it? And if you didn't pick up on
telling me? Hang on. You're telling me that for the price of one game, I can get 51 games?
Dan,
no, it's 40.
No. He is right, and you've actually rings a massive bell because I've just also remembered that there's 51 games in that one package. So if anyone's listening now, get on your eShop, and if you're in the market for
Sundered.
Over 50 games, get Sundered because it's probably better than the 51 games. I'm genuinely going to check Sundered out there because that sounds absolutely awesome.
I'm looking at it now, and it looks like Hollow Knight on acid. Looks great.
Whoa.
So I'm up for that.
And I've been in the market for that.
So, Bellum, what about you? What have you been playing? Have you been playing that many games? I haven't.
No. Well, I've been utilising my Xbox Games Pass this week, and I downloaded 3 games. I downloaded Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, Dishonored 2, and Plague Tale. So before I dove into them, I finished up my playthrough of Ori and the Will of the Wisps, which I have absolutely loved. Huge fan of the first. I've talked about that game so much. I've 100%ed it. I've found everything, and it was excellent. Then my other game I'm playing was Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, and boy was that a game. I enjoyed that a huge amount, and it gave me the willies in the best way possible.
Did you play it with headphones on?
I did, yeah. I because I'd heard so many people say that if you're playing this game, you have to play it with headphones. We'll get onto it a little bit later in talking about kind of consoles coming up, but it's pushed me one notch further into the Xbox Series X camp because I will need to play the sequel to that game. It was that good.
Of course, because they own Ninja Theory.
They do own Ninja Theory, and I went back and rewatched the trailer for Hellblade 2, and I'm massively hyped for whatever they're planning on doing next with that franchise. Because absolutely love that game. Couldn't recommend it any higher. So if people have Xbox Game Pass, you need to get it.
I have your Xbox
You
Game
do,
Pass.
yeah. Mark has, because Xbox Game Pass Ultimate is for PC as well, and I don't own a gaming PC. I just gave the PC part of it over to Mark, and he's utilising it. I'm not sure if they've put it on PC yet.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think I'll have to buy it with my own money.
What have you been playing, Mark? What have you been playing?
I'm still going with Divinity 2, Original Sin. Got 2 campaigns on the go. That's good fun. It's a slow burn, but it's still going. That's good fun. But I a while ago, I bought the remake of Resident Evil 2. And I finally decided to knuckle down and play that. And I'm on my 3rd run through of the campaign, and I'm loving it.
It's so good. It's so good.
It's so well made. The story's excellent.
You managing to hide from Mr. X okay? Or is he creeping you out? What's going on with Mr. X?
I'm not going to lie, a little bit of poo came out the first time because I forgot about Mr. X.
I was expecting but it was solid. Great.
So my first campaign was as Leon. So you go and do the helicopter stuff, and then he moves the helicopter out of the way. And I was like, he's big. What's he doing? Tank of a man. And then the stomping starts, and I was like, genuinely screamed a little bit and was just like, shoot him.
Yeah.
Like, it was awful. And then I remembered, you got to sort of actually get out of the way, and there's tactics involved. It's not just fire at the big man until big man go down.
Yeah.
I'm loving it, and I'm playing the co-op. What do they call it? Not co-op. Campaign play 2, where it's like from another perspective or something, and it's all changed around and it's a little bit harder. So that's kind of it, to be honest with you. It's those 2 games that I've been playing.
It's a great pair of games, man. I'm just waiting until they eventually get round to remaking Resident Evil 4 because it's the greatest Resident Evil of all time.
Well, it's been announced. It's happening.
Has it? I've missed that.
Yeah.
I missed that. That's big.
Yeah, it's happening.
Dan, I knew you would. I knew you'd be a good guest, Dan. That's the best news I've had. That's the best news I've had all year. Flipping heck. Okay, right, yeah.
Right, that's the segue to the news.
It is. Our first piece of news. Mark, do you want to take the lead on this first bit? I feel like I've talked a lot.
Well, I think we've already had it. Resident Evil 4 remake. Can't wait.
Sorry, yeah.
Oh my goodness. How did we not know that? Genuinely. That's shocking.
Yeah.
What kind of podcast
Let's end the podcast.
Listen, leaked Sony patent about the PS5 allowing for backwards compatibility back to the PS1 via the cloud. In brackets, we've written, old game discs won't work.
Yes.
I guess we expected this.
Yeah.
How do we feel about this?
Well, I suppose it's the revelation that if they're doing backwards compatibility, it's going to be fully through the cloud, which in a way is great, but also, there's all these people screaming out to slot those PS1 discs into their PS5. That's not going to happen anytime soon. But it's, it's them, trying to play ball with Xbox, who are doing a great job. Sorry, this is me being a fanboy again, who I think are doing a good job of with their smart delivery and their, people know they do backwards compatibility pretty well. At least this is a way of PlayStation trying to play ball somewhat.
Yeah. I mean, I because I'm an idiot, I don't own my PS1 back catalogue anymore, because back in the day of trading stuff in and that feeling like the thing you should do as a kid, I've got rid of them all. I've got like a few that are mostly smashed up secondhand rubbish now. So for me, that's fine. Like, because then I can buy the original Wipeouts, I can buy Crash if I'm not playing the Insane Trilogy for some reason or whatever. So it kind of works for me because I'd buy the digital edition anyway.
But I mean, they're going to be making more money out of you, and it's the whole thing of like, I've owned Final Fantasy VII on probably about 6 different platforms by this stage, and I'm just going to keep paying for it every time I own a new piece of hardware. So yeah, there are people that don't really think twice about that kind of thing.
Did you see the leak of an Amazon photo of a PS5 version of Skyrim?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Is that real?
Surely not. That can't be real. I mean,
speaking of buying games 17 times, how can they?
They're doing GTA 5, which was a PS3, Xbox 360 game. So Skyrim could quite easily make it to the next gen. Does that get you excited, Dan, the thought of backwards compatibility on PS5, or is it something that you think PlayStation just need to do better at in general?
Yeah, I mean, I was always disappointed.
That's a leaded question, Your Honor.
No, I was always disappointed that was one of the things they dropped from the PS3, for example, once they changed the hardware, that they ditched the PS2 back compat, because it was really good. It was one of the first examples of up-resing, so you could stick your disc and then it would bump it up to 720p or something, and it did a really good job. But obviously they had to scale it down because the PS3 was an absolute monster back in the day. So it is great. I mean, I've got a cupboard like right in front of me that it's just filled with some of my favorite PS2 games. I just wish there was some system where, yes, you can't put your disc in the console, but some kind of way of going, look, I have a copy right here. I haven't borrowed it from a friend. Honest, can I now have the digital version, please? Or you send it in and they pulp it or something, and you get the digital version.
Yeah,
and then they send you back some kind of ornamental version of your pulp to put like on your shelf to show that you had it.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right. Some kind of QR scan. Yeah, obviously they don't have anything on that, but even if it's just scanning the barcode or something you could do,
or drawing in chalk on the floor the PS5 logo and putting candles around and like doing a summoning, and it just happens somehow.
Sacrificing a small lamb or something, and then it boots up Tony Hawk's Underground 2. It would be great. Next up, we mentioned it. Did we mention it? No, we haven't mentioned it yet. Next up, the Ubisoft Forward happened this weekend.
We mentioned it was happening.
We mentioned last episode that it was happening. Mentioned. It has now happened, and they showed off a whole load of gameplay for games that we already know about. It was sparse on reveals, sadly, because, well, who knows with Ubisoft, because they do like to leak their own stuff, but sadly, Far Cry 6 was leaked about 2 days, I think, and they basically showed off that their big reveal was having I hope I get his name right, Giancarlo Esposito, of Breaking Bad and The Mandalorian fame, is the villain in Far Cry 6. And they had a really cool reveal trailer for it. But yeah, we saw some gameplay for Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Watch Dogs Legion. I'm probably most excited about Watch Dogs Legion, about everything they showed off, just because it's London and I like seeing places what I know on my screen. Would you agree, Mark?
I'm not hugely into Far Cry. I played 3 and enjoyed it, and then accidentally just forgot that there were other ones that came out.
Yeah.
So not my thing. Assassin's Creed, really liked the first 2, and then just kind of, again, let them fall to the wayside.
You slept on Black Flag, did you?
I slept on Black Flag, yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, but I haven't... And actually, Watch Dogs, I hadn't played those either. But the original... was it last year, the trailer? They did a big thing about everybody has a different story.
Yeah, you can essentially
sort of
recruit anybody that you see walking around on the streets onto your team. Yeah. That's kind of the big thing.
So it's the first time I looked at Watch Dogs and thought, hey, this looks fun. What's going on here? London? I'd love to see a rendered version of London in next gen. That sounds great. Yeah. So, yeah, that was the most interesting thing for me, I would say. But
a
lot of it was leaked, so we already knew about a lot of it.
They didn't mention, they had nothing to say about a few scandalous things that are going on in the Ubisoft camp involving various forms of abuse. They thought, let's not put that in the thing where we sell products. Let's just put a little post out about it on Twitter. But, that's them doing them. Dan, did you see any of the coverage for the Ubisoft Forward?
I did, yes. And it's got to be said, actually, my journey with the aforementioned franchises very much reflects Mark's. I played first Assassin's Creed. Well, I played the sort of the trilogy, the Ezio trilogy, the 2, which I really liked.
Sure, yeah.
Bounced very hard off 3 very early and then just didn't really get back into it. And even though I've heard very good things about Odyssey, my sort of appetite for big open worlds with lots of bits on the map and things to do has really waned in recent years. Far Cry 3, again, was such a really tight game, but everything that's come since has done so little to really evolve that format that it's just not interested me again. And ever since Breath of the Wild, open world games have been a bit ruined for me because you've just realized, you've just realized how formulaic they are. I'm seeing the reviews from Ghost of Tsushima right now just saying they've done it again. It's a really beautiful, sumptuous open world. Combat's great, but someone goes, "Can you get me some moss, please?" And you have to go and and you go and do that, and it's just like, why have you not looked at this game that's now 4 years old and not taken cues from that, just like what it's like to just go into a world, be given like one key objective, and just let the actual, the architecture, the way that someone's deliberately laid out that world, tell the story and attract your attention instead of huge waypoint markers and, checklists of things to do. So, that's my concern. Ubisoft
but Dan,
very much has a formula.
Dan, there aren't waypoint markers. You get told how to do the next thing by the wind. The wind tells you what to do in Ghost of Tsushima, Dan. Don't you understand? It's the wind.
It's the wind.
No, I'm so with you there. And genuinely, while you were talking about Breath of the Wild, I just got goosebumps. Just thinking about that game gives me the tingles.
Oh, for goodness sake, man.
I'm sorry. I can't get over it, man. I
think when we first met, Joe, that you were banged into it at that point, weren't you?
I was, I was deep in my breath. I can't think of another game that has made me just think about it every second of every day. I'm thinking, why am I wasting time talking to people when I could be running around as Link on the breeze with a leaf in my hand? It's just genuinely the. I don't know. I could talk about that game for so long.
You're gushing.
I am. So anyway, back to, funny enough, you mentioned Ghost of Tsushima. That's what we were going to get onto next. That game is out now. It is out there for people who have PS5s to play and enjoy, and it seems to have been received very well. I've seen a few 9 out of 10s knocking about and that kind of thing. But Dan hit the nail on the head in that until a game can do what Breath of the Wild did or do it better, I can't really see an open world game surpassing it for me.
No, I mean, and those reviews I've read from the people I tend to trust have definitely been on that side of it. They've been on the 6 to 7 out of 10 end of the
really?
spectrum.
Okay.
I say end of the spectrum is slightly lower down.
Yeah.
But I tend to take 9.5s and that with a pinch of salt when I read what I've read from the sort of sevens.
Speaking of PC, Death Stranding is out on PC.
Yeah.
And I can tell you very strongly I will not be playing that. Anybody else interested in that? Dan?
Yeah, I want to know where
where
you stand on Death Stranding, Dan, and 2, Hideo Kojima in general.
Where do we begin? Okay, so Death Stranding.
Sorry, I got a bit excited. Just spit water everywhere.
No. Death Stranding, I couldn't quite bring myself to play. People were trying to convince me that in many ways it was this sort of meditative jaunt across the landscape. But then I've also watched a variety of videos where it's just like you're just tumbling clumsily down hills and dropping things, which looks the complete opposite of meditative to me. It looks like a complete exercise in frustration. Yeah. Blended with Kojima's, usual his
go for it.
His
You're in a
usual
safe place.
predilection for assuming that he's an absolute godlike genius while trotting out loads of just drivel that just needs to be tackled by an editor.
I think, Mark, you found a kindred spirit here in Dan, to be honest.
And I don't get me wrong. It's like he has his moments. Like I think Metal Gear Solid 3. I think Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. I actually liked what I played in Metal Gear 5. Like I felt like I got what I wanted out of it from a game long before the story, completely run out of steam. And I was like, I don't need to know what happens now. I've just had a really good time sneaking around, coming down in a chopper to Rebel Yell, and just, he has these moments where he gets it, but he just needs people to say no. Like he just needs someone there to just go, genius still needs to be shaped and tamed, and he's just surrounded by people that are either 1, scared of him, or 2, in awe of him. And so he's absolutely abusing his status right now, and I think he really needs to get his shit together, because I think we realized why Konami dropped him off the back of Death Stranding, which is like, this is what happens when you let a guy just do what the hell he wants.
Yeah, I think you're right in that most footage I've seen looks like when you've bought way too much at Tesco and you're trying to carry it home like a 2-mile walk, and it's just that mad struggle, sweating to get home. But I hear what you're saying. Although sadly, rumors are that the next project he's working on is a sequel to Death Stranding, which would be just take a hint, bud.
Do PT. Like, it doesn't have to be Silent Hills. Like, PT was incredible.
Yeah, it was superb.
The fact that people are still talking about a demo that lasted about half an hour to this day, that are still hacking it and trying to get into its secrets.
Yeah, people are holding on to their PS. Is PS3 or PS4? Is it PS3? Or
PS4. It's PS4. Yeah.
PS4. Yeah. PS4, making sure that they will never get rid of that console that has that PT demo on it, and selling them on eBay for huge amounts of money.
It's insane, and it's there's no reason why he can't go off and do something inspired by Silent Hill that could still work with PT. And Sony must know, because the amount of attention that got from the PlayStation conference when it was revealed and immediately made available. Yeah. That's what people wanted, and that's what people are still after. They don't want Norman Reedus bumbling around America with a giant backpack on.
Strand gameplay, as C
said.
Strand
gameplay. Mm-hmm.
It's not a genre. It's just not a genre.
It isn't, Mark. It's okay.
It's PR is what it is.
Yeah,
it is.
That's all of I think all of the big news. Unless Dan, because you've got your finger on both the pulse and the button, you've got any other news you can share with us? Like, for example, what's Halo Infinite going to be like?
Don't ask me. I'm not the Xbox fanboy here.
Okay, fair dues. All right,
that was a nice try, though.
It was worth a try.
Damn.
I can say one thing.
Yeah,
but I can't give you any details. But I am working on something for a next gen console.
Oh.
And maybe down the line I can tell you what it was. It's
okay.
Personally, for me, it's really, really, really exciting. And it's not like a big deal, but it's a project I've had on the go over the last few weeks. And like, for me, it's a huge like career high moment thing, and I'm absolutely just bursting to tell people what I've done.
Wow. Okay. Well, we'll have to book you on for another episode when you can tell us that. Oh, you're tickling my balls over here, Dan.
Absolute tease.
That's
Listen,
fun.
should we do a little bit of housekeeping and do some follow-up emails from listeners? We've just got a couple that we can race through really quickly.
Yeah, go for it.
So Dan, we do this thing called Top Tens, which is literally what it sounds like. And it was just a way of getting to know the listeners and a little bit of back and forth. And last week, one of my friends, Ryan Turbay, that's not, you don't usually say
interesting
like that.
Pronunciation.
Yeah, got in contact, and one of his games was Jurassic Park Operation Genesis on PlayStation 2. Does that ring a bell?
Yes. Why is that anyone's top 10?
Yeah, well, yeah.
That was what we asked. But he's gotten back to me with the follow-up saying, JPOG, as no one's calling it, is loads better than Evolution.
JPOG.
Which has much less...
Yeah.
JPOG. Sorry, what was I say? Is loads better than Evolution, which has much less customization, meaning all the parts look the same. Plus, the game was just part of my childhood. So it's nostalgia, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's justified it by saying it's better than an even worse Jurassic Park game.
Yeah. Basically, it's better than a terrible Jurassic Park game, and I was a kid.
Next listener email, a friend of yours, Matt Martin, I believe, Mark, has got in touch. And he's just, funny enough, mentioned, would you consider including Halo Infinite in a future podcast? I believe there's a reveal later this month, and I so freaking stoked for it. And I mean, yes, we definitely consider including it. Just as of yet, there's not a lot to talk about. We had a little reveal where we had a brute talking about, gonna get you, Master Chief. I think something along those lines.
No, he won't.
But that's all. He won't get it. I know, Dan. He's gonna try. He is gonna try, but it's not gonna happen. But yeah, once we have more details on Halo Infinite, Matt. Probably going to be the most important game that Microsoft ever makes in their lives. Once we have more details on that, we will talk about it. Okay. Now, based on things that you've already said in this pod so far, Dan, I think this question that we've had in from our dear listener Lawal actually might ring true to you. I'd make an assumption here. He's sent an email asking us whether or not our gaming habits have changed over time, and sort of whether it's changes in our lifestyle, whatever it is, as you're getting older, if you've got a relationship, if you've got children, all that kind of stuff. Does that dictate what kind of games you play? Now, he's provided an example saying that when he was younger, he used to dive into a lot of huge JRPGs, all that sort of thing, but now he has children, he is playing a lot of shorter game experiences. He's given examples like Florence on the mobile, Minute on the Switch, Inside, which is on the Xbox One on various platforms now. And he's asking us if we've tried any shorter game experiences. And do you think that blockbuster experiences inherently hold more value in the eyes of the consumer, or is sticking to a tried and tested formula? So basically, he wants to know, do we think that shorter, more kind of compact gaming experiences have the same value as your big AAA, well, not necessarily AAA, but your really long open world games? Are they on a similar platform? And also, have we had experience of them? So the reason why I say, Dan, it might resonate with you is just because of what you were mentioning about your kind of eShop purchases on the Nintendo Switch. Mm-hmm. And I know there are a huge amount of shorter game experiences to be found on the Nintendo Switch. So does any of that sort of resonate with you?
Yeah, it absolutely does. I mean, we talked about Breath of the Wild, for example, and I'm also a huge Monster Hunter fiend, and I will gladly sink hundreds of hours into that. But what I like about those games is that they're long, demanding games, but you can play them fairly piecemeal. They're not like RPGs where there isn't sort of a point where you stop. Like, I remember playing Fallout 3, for example, and there was never a point where I was like, oh, this is a good time to wrap up. Oh, look, the sun's up. I can't really do that anymore. I have a kid. I have a kid now as well, so that definitely has changed my habits a lot. But more in terms of when I decide to play games. It used to be that I just play in the evening, and now I've got to wait till about 10 or 11. I've got to wait for my wife to also go to bed, and then I'll happily stay up till about 1 a.m. and just get through. But I love a short game. Like, a short game that doesn't overstay its welcome. And I just think people are so predisposed with length equating to value. And as we're discovering, as we're talking about games like Ghost of Tsushima and the Ubisoft formula, they're not so often. It's just a case of padding and repetition. And I think a lot of games can really say what they want to say and be in and out within 5-10 hours. And I've played so many great games where I've gone that was just the perfect length. I'm really glad they didn't try and milk it or do anything more with it. So yeah, Sundered, as I just mentioned, was a perfect example. I don't know if you played Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom, another just absolutely wonderful Metroidvania.
I've seen it on the eShop, yeah.
Yeah, again, stick it on the wish list, wait for a sale. It's wonderful. Devolver are just the kings of putting stuff like that out. Minute, as your listener mentioned, really good fun. Gato Roboto, Pikuniku, Heave Ho. There's just tons on there, and as I say, if you want these sub 15 quid recommendations, I can bang out a ton of them. But they're wonderful, and it's just all about new experiences and not having to fit these mechanics into some kind of AAA formula that's going to be recognizable and going to be mass market, because there's so much pressure on that side because of the size of the teams and the amount of money that's being invested into them. There often has to be a degree of familiarity within them to have that broad appeal and to make the investment worthwhile. And so when you delve into the shorter side of things and the indie side of things, you're really getting an insight into, full-blown, unabashed, unfettered creativity and this chance to experience completely new ideas and new visual styles that just don't have that corporate influence or sort of marketing mentality at the forefront of their creation. So, yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah. I think you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, things like I think at 2 different Game Awards ceremonies, seeing things like Untitled Goose Game win Game of the Year, I think is hugely indicative of the fact that it's all about the experience at the end of it. I mean, I played that game with my girlfriend, and we just sat and completed it in an evening and just had the best time. And I'm going to take so many more memories away from that than I am from playing, like you said, something repetitive and a bit more monotonous, something like your Assassin's Creed, where it's just the same throughout, where someone's trying to make a compact piece that is like, this is an intentionally short thing because we want to tell you this story and that's it, or whatever it is. We want to show you this bizarre gameplay mechanic where you're stealing some keys off a gardener's bum, like that kind of thing. Like, I don't need any more than that.
Sorry, I was just saying it's not a churn, things like that. Goose Game has a few mechanics and they go, well, how much can we do with this very limited mechanic of what a goose can do? And they just come up with so many ingenious ideas within that, it's like 2-3 hours that it takes to do the game. And then it's done and you're like, wonderful, done, happy.
Well, I mean, there's a few examples of like games that I've played that I would agree with everything you said. It would be like Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons is one that I played that was like 3 hours long. And it's just a really beautiful story with really simple mechanics. You just get every cent of worth, out of that experience. There's no chaff at all. It's just pure story from start to finish. And other games more recently, like I finally played Doom 2016, which is just an incredible, like really tight core gameplay loop that, just absolutely packs it in. And as you said, doesn't overstay its welcome. You're in it from start to finish and just really enjoy that experience, and then it's done, and you don't feel like, oh, hang on, actually, how long did I spend there? Have I really got my money's worth, sort of thing. It's not even in your mind. It's all about the experience when you're in it. Guacamelee 1 and 2 again, 2 games that I played pretty recently that are just it's all about the charm, the graphic style, the humor, the music, and it's games like that are just so wrapped so neatly in a bow and aren't about just stretching out some overly epic idea into something that just ends up being a real grind. That's not fun.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously it's at the end, it's kind of down to subjective, individual opinion about what you enjoy playing and what you feel you get the most out of. But if you could just do something that, even if it is 3 hours and it's tight, like, what's wrong with that?
Yeah. I mean, has the fact that you have a child now, Dan, would you say that has been a big shift into changing the kinds of games you play?
I wouldn't say so in a way, because I've always had that interest in, what's new and like what's new. And part of that was actually facilitated by Xbox Live Arcade. When I worked at Xbox, that I really believe that was their golden age, especially for the 360, because you not only had the Live Arcade, hugely, but you also had the Indies program as well. Mm-hmm. And so you were getting some absolutely batshit stuff out of that. You weren't getting a lot of quality, but you were getting some insane stuff. But at the same time, you were getting things like Castle Crashers and Super Meat Boy and Trials. The original Trials was all that era. And so I was just like, man, this is great because they're tapping into my original love, which is arcade gaming, and it's always that sense of, cool ideas, short games, often ridiculously hard, but forcing you to plug away at tiny loops for a long time to perfect them, or get the best time, or get the best score, or something like that. But always done in new and creative ways. So I think ever since the 360, really, that's when I really sort of dug into indies and just really had a newfound appreciation for anything that wasn't coming out of the top tier publishers.
Yeah. Just a quick shout out to a couple of my favorite ones. Celeste on various programs.
Yeah.
One of my favorite games of probably like the last 5 years, just because I love soul-crushingly difficult games and just anything that's dealing with mental health, but done in a really tasteful way, I just think is excellent. Similar to I mentioned earlier, Hellblade does that really well. And the other one I actually really like is Oxenfree. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
I loved it. Loved Oxenfree. Yeah.
Really great.
Familiar.
It's basically about this group of teenagers that go and they like row to this weird island to like have a party, and just weird shit starts happening, and there's like radio signals, and it's all a little bit freaky deaky, and it's a really interesting mechanic, the way that they deal with that kind of strange. Is it? I can't remember if it's extraterrestrial or if it's just like a bit ghosty.
It's a bit of both, isn't it? It's a bit ghosty. It's on the other side, and you're communicating them by tuning into specific frequencies. But it's never made abundantly clear. Like, it's not explicitly clear what's going on. But it's fascinating.
I might have seen Limmy streaming this.
I think he has. Yeah. If you like that, you definitely give Night in the Woods a crack if you haven't as well.
I've always looked at the thumbnail for that and thought that looks like the kind of game I'd like, but I've never touched it. So thank you for pushing me over the edge. What's that about?
Well, it's more if you enjoy the dialogue and the interpersonal elements of Oxenfree than the weird stuff. This is a much more grounded tale that just happens to be told with animals, but it's a tale of like a listless, a 20-something cat that goes back to their hometown and is sort of dealing with things. So I think there's an element of mental health in there as well. But just the dialogue, the relationships, and it's sort of combined almost incongruously with platforming elements, but not overt platforming elements. You're not collecting things. It's just the way you get around town and stuff. You're
not jumping up in the air and going wahoo,
wahoo. Well, unless you're saying it yourself. But
which I probably would. That sounds great. And also one that is kind of widely known on a similar level, but probably kind of one of the shortest experiences with the most impact I've played is Gone Home, which is just really great game about someone going home to their family home, and it's very easy to ruin that game, but you just kind of explore your home and work out what's happening.
Set up as one thing is another.
Yes.
On that note, then try a normal lost phone. On a very similar thematic bent, actually, a normal lost phone. And if you haven't played it, What Remains of Edith Finch.
Yes, that's on Game Pass, and I've been meaning to get to that.
Wonderful. Like, was my game of the year it came out. Just stunning.
Okay, brilliant. Well, if anybody needed recommendations at the start of this episode, they should have their boots full by now. So that's actually, we've got one more bit of listener feedback, Mark, haven't we?
This top 10, it's coming from your brother.
It's coming from my own brother, my flesh and blood. Yeah. So there's probably going to be some crossovers here, isn't there?
Would you like me to read out your brother?
Go for it, Mark. Let's go for it.
He starts off by saying, loving the podcast. He has to say that.
Yeah, it does. He does.
To be fair. So, but we'll take it. As you can see, I have some crossover with my younger brother on some of these games. Has to be expected. Number 10, Halo 3. Best Halo online multiplayer and a great farewell from Bungie.
Well, it wasn't their farewell. That was Halo Reach, so he's wrong on that count. But it's the last of their mainline Halo games with Master Chief, yes. Excellent choice.
Oh, and as another note, Halo 3 came out today. That's when we're recording, on the 14th of July. Worth noting. So if you're on
PC,
Halo 3 is finally on PC. Number 9.
Sorry, a side note.
Sorry, go on.
They should just make the campaign crossplay so we could co-op with each other. Why haven't they done that? Because it's not competitive. I don't understand why they haven't done that.
Dan?
Dan, give us the answers.
I'll see what I can do.
Yeah,
cheers, man.
Cheers, bud. Thank you so much.
Number 9. Metal Gear Solid 5. I must like it. I've put it in over 300 hours. That doesn't make sense. That can't be.
I must like it.
I must like it.
No, I must like it. I've put in over 300 hours into it.
I see. Kiefer Sutherland does a good Snake voice, but I prefer David Hayter. I'd agree with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's right. I really enjoyed Metal Gear Solid 5 as a little extra. But I agree with Dan massively. I didn't complete it because I did loads of stuff and I was like, right, that was good. See you later.
I've had me fun.
Yeah, so, I've had me fun with my shooter and that'll do, thank you. Yeah.
At number 8, Mass Effect 2. It's better than the other two.
That's been a recurring theme on the show. Dan, I don't know what your take is on the Mass Effect series, but we've had some people say that 3 is their favourite.
Well, they're wrong, aren't they?
Yep. Well,
you're correct.
You've heard it here first, and he's right.
I'm glad to clear that up.
It's confirmed.
Yeah, we're all on the same page here. It's just the idiots that listen. Sorry. Thank you for listening to the show.
Right. At number 7, Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Fantastic game with a fantastic 80s soundtrack. Now, Bellum, we were talking about this one earlier. I'm confused why Vice City got so much love. I'm not saying it's bad, but I always felt Vice City, for me, felt a lot more plain and straightforward when compared to San Andreas and 5, which obviously came a lot later. I'm skipping out 4. It was a weird one.
I hear you. I think for me, it was just about the vibe and something about that kind of... They just they nailed the nostalgic vibe and the comedy of it and that kind of Miami Vice feel. And yeah, I think for me and my brother, we just loved that soundtrack so much and discovered so much music that we loved because of it. And I think that was and that's kind of a recurring theme in all the GTA games. Actually, was just all the individual soundtracks and the radio stations and all the gags and goofs that they had on them. Yeah, I love Vice City. Was it my favourite? I don't know. I'd probably say 5, even though it's the most recent entry. I'd probably say 5 was my favourite just because the way they did the story in that. But yeah, got a lot of love for Vice City. How about you, Dan, on the GTA front?
I'm a San Andreas man as well because I always found the previous... I think if you went back to Vice City, I think you'd find it deeply frustrating when you see how advanced GTAs have come in terms of character locomotion and navigation. Yeah, you know, the fact you couldn't climb over stuff until San Andreas. The moment they got to the point, it's like, oh, you can go down an alley and then get up the wall. Thank fuck that. I don't have to turn back and run back. That for me was an absolute game changer. But I just remember I booked a week off work, and my girlfriend, well, my now wife, but then girlfriend, lived in Clapham at the time, and I just spent a week in her bedroom while she was at work just playing San Andreas, and I have such fond memories of doing that because I very rarely do that for anything, but I just absolutely hammered that game, and I've never really been able to get fully into one since because I think of how completely I devoted myself to that game. I have a habit of doing that. I've done it with Final Fantasy VII. I put so much of myself into that game that I've never really been able to get into a Final Fantasy since. And GTA has been the same. I'm always, I don't know. It's almost like I burn myself out after I've done it. Yeah, well, it's sort of like the only way is downhill. When you have an experience like that, it's going to take the world to beat it, isn't it? And I mean, if you think about the leap from Vice City to San Andreas in terms of purely gameplay and the things you could do, like the fact that you had, am I right in thinking CJ could get fat if you didn't work out enough and that kind of thing?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just so many little things like that. Just set them worlds apart. But yeah, I think he's mainly talking about the music, if I'm honest, if I know my brother.
Fair enough. Yeah, I just feel like it gets a lot of love, and I've never understood why it felt like people were more vocal about Vice City. I think the vibe is exactly. I think people remember the vibe, and that's a real strong element of nostalgia. I think if you went back and played it now, you'd be like, yeah, I hear you. My childhood.
You can just listen to Spotify.
yeah. Close your eyes and put Spotify on, Jamie, you bloody idiot. Right.
Number 6, let's continue. Let's plow on. Skyrim. Complete all of the DLCs and sunk many hundreds of hours into it. Not a perfect game, loads of bugs. Want to finally hear Mark's salty take on Skyrim and why he thinks it's not as good as Oblivion, or Morrowind, or 2, or 1, or Fallout 3.
Is this the time when we finally have the Skyrim rant?
I'm not getting into it. I'm not getting into it.
I've never got into Skyrim, I'm sorry. I always admire their ambition, but I just think I don't know why those games have to be so janky. Every time people await a new one, they always come out and it's like, it's so janky. And I'm a big Japanese gamer. So when I see these like beautifully polished games that they've just spent time on, let's go back to Breath of the Wild, and everything's so well considered and thought out. And then you go to them, which is just like, it's just a bug fest. It's like, it's all right. The users will fix it. I'm like,
the users will fix it.
The users will fix it. It really interferes with my enjoyment of stuff, and I just think you could do so much better.
Yeah. I was watching a really good. This is kind of a sidebar. A really good video about the kind of life cycle of the PS3, and I forgot how terribly Skyrim ran specifically on the PS3 when it came out, because the PS3 had this. I think they called it like the cell system. What was
the cell processor.
The cell processor, yeah, and just how for a lot of developers just really didn't like it because it was like having to learn a new language. But Skyrim just hilariously ran terribly on the PS3. And if you track down some videos of Skyrim running on the PS3, it's a laugh fest. Let's just say that.
I've got it behind me. I could fire it up and see what it does. My character floating with no horse underneath him, just going like T-posing in the air.
Yeah.
Bethesda games are always riddled with hilarious bugs anyway, but it was particularly dodgy on the old PS3.
They've got to do quite a lot to win people's hearts back, haven't they, Bethesda? They haven't had, in terms of their own game studios, they haven't had a great few years, really, have they?
Not really. I can't say I liked Fallout 4, and I didn't bother with 76, and it looks like it was a train wreck.
But Bethesda put out, I mean, they publish the games from the Dishonored development.
Yeah, so it's Arcane. Yeah, they publish some really
Arcane, that's right.
They publish some great stuff. It's just their own
Prey.
Yeah, Prey. They've got
Evil Within.
Yeah, they've
Doom.
Got Doom. Yeah, that's a huge one. That's all stuff they publish, isn't it? But in terms of the games that Bethesda.
So when the other people make the games,
yeah, exactly,
it seems to be okay.
Yeah, weird that, isn't it?
What's going on, Todd? Come on, Todd.
Yeah. Come on, Toddy boy. It's because they're spending all their time making this Fallout TV show that's happening, apparently.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Anyway.
Should we continue?
Keep going.
Number 5, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. My favourite Star Wars game with a fantastic story and well-written characters. I have to confess, I came to these two games just too late.
Okay.
But I've heard nothing but positive things. I just came to them really late.
Second best twist in gaming, I reckon, was in the first Knights of the Old Republic, was the reveal of Darth Revan being you the whole time. Flipping. I've probably just spoiled that for some people, but that's great. Absolutely love that game, and I can totally understand that if you didn't play it when it came out, it wouldn't feel great.
At number 4, I didn't play these either. Roller Coaster Tycoon, original/classic version that is now on Steam, as it has 1, 2 plus expansions. How has this not been mentioned? Got to make your own coasters. I assume he means roller coasters and not mug.
Yeah, no, he means roller coasters. Yeah,
holders. Best time suck game ever.
I'm now having images of a coaster building sim where you just build endless coasters.
Oh, it's lovely. And that keeps the mark right off the table. Look at that. Beautiful.
A lovely bit of cork. I don't know why we're going into the Yorkshire accent so much on this episode. That's a nice. Dan's holding up a coaster.
That is a nice coaster.
That's a great one. That
coaster. There you go.
Is it a cork one? He came prepared.
It's a cork coaster.
My brother is obsessed with Roller Coaster Tycoon in an unhealthy way.
I thought you were going to say coasters. Genuinely thought you were going to say
although
coasters.
He does.
He loves a bit of slate.
It's good slate mention. He loves Roller Coaster Tycoon in an unnatural way, and I've seen him play that game a scary amount. Don't really have a lot to say about it because I never got to play on it because it was all he ever did. Have either of you played much of it? I was more of a
I was more of a theme park.
I was more of a theme park, theme park and theme park world.
I was more
guy.
of a theme park. What did you play it on? I played it on PS1.
PC.
Theme park, PC.
PC. Yeah. Number 3, Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Songs are far beyond other games.
I don't know if he's talking about other Zelda games or if he's just talking about games in general.
I assume it's games in general.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't argue
no,
that.
They're the most memorable piece of game. I mean, that's just probably because I attach a huge amount of nostalgia to it, but I know those tunes like nothing else. It is my favorite game of all time. I mean, the thing is, Breath of the Wild is a better game, but I just can't take the nostalgia away from it, and I think it's valid to have that as a reason why you think it's a great game.
But what about Jurassic Park Operation Genesis, guys?
Yeah, but Mark,
Get with the
sometimes you can just be wrong, and that's what your friend is, and we need to be okay with that.
Is it really better than Evolution though? Oh, come on, let's be serious.
Going to get wars in the comments.
We've brought
the Evolution stands are going to be going off in the comments.
Number 2. Final Fantasy VII, Cloud, Cid, and Vincent / Barrett for Endgame, with Golden Chocobo and Knights of the Round summon as a must.
Unstoppable.
Bought it on PC originally.
You're right.
Oh, don't forget your Mimic spell either, because if you pop off Knights of the Round, Mimic will then do it again.
Yeah. Oh.
And you basically one-shot Sephiroth.
Yeah. How long was Knights of the Round though? You could go and make a full lunch during just one summon. It was insane.
Number 1. Deus Ex 2000 opened my mind to the fact that games can weave an amazing narrative, stealth-based or go in guns blazing. Oh, that's one. That was one sentence.
Come in again.
Stealth-based or guns blazing. JC Denton for the win. Yeah,
great game. The original Deus Ex was brilliant, and also strangely not talked about enough these days, because I think the sequel...
It's overshadowed by System Shock and BioShock and
games
like that, I would say.
I think
the people tend to go back to those these days rather than Deus Ex.
Because it was mad, because you could end up with so many different endings, and it was all dialogue based in terms of how that would happen. It was quite weird, quite stunted gameplay, but in terms of what it did, it was awesome. Did you ever play Deus Ex, the original, Dan?
I didn't. I was off the PC boil at that point, so I never really got a chance to. But I just think there was a real period. We mentioned games like System Shock and Deus Ex, where it really felt like that was the direction games were going to go in, that they were going to become more open-ended and offer genuine choice, and the consequence was going to be a really important thing. And then somewhere along the way, that seemed to fall by the wayside of AAA game dev. One of the things I always sort of mourn is the loss of difficulty-based objectives. You remember when you played GoldenEye, and if you played it on easy, you only had to basically get to the end of the level. But if you played it on the hardest level, there were about 3 or 4 other things you had to do. Now it's just, you take more damage. And it never gets more... I just think there are so many facets of games from the sort of early 2000s, mid-2000s, that have been left behind, and people seem to forget they were there. But they were sort of so ahead of the time and should really have been the sort of template from which other games sort of drew their influence, but never really did. And even when you look at BioShock Infinite, games like that, compared to the breadth of choice in System Shock 2, for example, it's incredibly linear, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's a strange choice.
And I guess in terms of that kind of difficulty-based objective thing, I suppose that's just kind of fallen to the wayside in lieu of side quests and that kind of thing, I suppose. I just kind of like that it was intrinsic to the difficulty. It was yes, you're going to take more damage, but you've also got to achieve more while you're doing it. And I love that idea that then suddenly you had a reason to tackle each one apart from just I've done it. Yeah. It actually added more to the game. So you started off familiarizing yourself with a level, and then as the difficulty increased, you also had to use that improved knowledge to do more around the stages as well, and fulfill more skillfully. And I think that became such a missing element of FPSs. I think because obviously some of the makers of that went into Free Radical, into the Time Splitters games. I remember Time Splitters 2, I think, did something very similar as well. Especially, I love Time Splitters 2. Yeah, we waxed lyrical about Time Splitters 2 a couple of episodes ago, and just how there were so many challenges in that game, and there was just endless characters to unlock, and there were so many reasons to go in and do all these different stuff.
Give me medals, and I'm yours forever.
Exactly. And and like you said, GoldenEye, if you did it under a certain amount of time, you got DK mode, and everyone's head went massive. It was
the hardest cheats in any game ever.
Yeah, genuinely.
Was it finishing facility on 00 Agent in 2 minutes, 4 seconds or something?
Yes.
How the fuck are you supposed to do that?
I'm getting palpitations just thinking about it, Dan. Yeah. It's so stressful.
But it's easier for devs to just copy and paste enemies or make a health bar bigger. So that's kind of where we're at, isn't it? Sadly.
It is. Games are rubbish, aren't they?
Games are
rubbish. Weren't the old days better?
Oh, tell me about it.
He finishes the email just saying, "Rip it apart. Go on, I dare you." But actually, I think we've been quite fair, and I rate this list a lot, Jamie. It's a good list.
I think it's there's no massive surprises. I would say they are all games that are widely well renowned. Yeah, they're all games that are widely well thought of. None of your sort of 6 or 7 out of 10s that you mentioned. Your Jurassic Park Operation Genesis. Is it?
No.
Is that what it is? Operation Genesis.
Operation, yeah.
None of them's. But Dan, while we're in this, I did say to you before, if you had the time to kind of give us your maybe your top 3 or just some of your favourites, just so we can fully complete this picture of you that we've been painting over the course of the podcast.
I hate doing this because I just have so many games that I associate with different times, and there are things I play right now that I probably consider my favourites.
Yeah.
But when it was like top of the head, Breath of the Wild is up there, just because of just one absolute game changer it was, and how I was so just sucked into that world for hundreds of hours of just one of the most beautifully crafted things I've ever played.
You didn't go and get all of the Koroks, did you? The Korok seeds or whatever.
I think I did.
Really? Flipping it.
Blimey.
Because I got all of the shrines, but as soon as I saw there were something like 850 Korok seeds, and all you get for getting them was like some kind of golden turd, I was like, no, I'm okay. Cheers.
You get a poo hat or something. That's it. Cool. I mean, that's ultimate Nintendo trolling, isn't it? It's like, well done, here you go.
Yeah, well done. Aren't you clever?
Now you can wear shit. Resident Evil 4, I think will never be dislodged from my top 3. When you mentioned Final Fantasy VII and saying that you buy it on every console it comes out, like Resident Evil 4 that's that game for me.
Yeah.
The loop of shooting in that game. I just think it's one of the most satisfying like gunplay mechanics, and it's just endlessly entertaining. I can never get tired of popping heads off with a shotgun.
Yeah.
That game, just everything, the feedback, the kick, the response, the fact that they introduced the sort of physical element to taking down enemies, so be able to kneecap them and then do a fucking suplex for whatever reason. But just jumping through windows, all those elements they introduced into it were just phenomenal. And again, another thing where I think games have really not grabbed that idea at all, because that idea, that cabin assault when you're like blocking the windows with the shelves, it's the closest I've ever seen to something like a scene out of Evil Dead 2 or something like in a video game. And they just keep at it. I think it's like a 20-hour action film where the pace just never lets up, and it just gets incrementally better and crazier. And I love the way that the enemies evolve, so that the parasite is obviously in its infancy at the start, and towards the end of the game you're meeting enemies where it's fully manifest and you pop the head off, and then the creature pops out of the neck and attacks you again. It just keeps you going, and it actually manages to have an escort in it that isn't annoying. Like, you can put her in a skip for the duration of a boss battle or whatever, so she doesn't get in the way.
I forgot about that. I've got to admit,
just get in the skip.
I still managed to find her slightly annoying, but I agree that she's less annoying than in other games.
Escorts are always annoying, but yeah, Ashley was one of the better ones.
You've managed to, so far your list is really appealing to me and Mark, I've just got to say, because we've also talked so much about Resident Evil 4, and we also often ascertain that the Wii version is the best version of that. Did you ever play it on the Wii?
Of course I played it on the Wii. As I say, I buy it on every. I haven't got the Switch one yet, but I did. The last one I played was the PS4 version. Okay. I finished on the 360. Right. Finished on the GameCube.
You really have owned. I think I had GameCube and Wii, and that was it for me. But I now you've reminded me that it's on the Switch. I might just have to.
It was on sale.
I'm going to wait for the remaster.
It was on sale for 15. I don't know if it still is on sale for 15 quid. But,
okay.
Right. And then the other one was another Capcom one, actually. And weirdly, I find this doesn't appear in top 10s very often, and I bet you a lot of people play it a lot, and that's Street Fighter 2. I was just like the right age for Street Fighter 2 when that came out. Like, in terms of the arcade scene, and just the anticipation for it coming out on Super Nintendo, and just like what an incredible port that was at the time, but it's also like the friendships I made from playing that game as well, like the rivalries I had, like people from school and guys I just meet in the arcades and play against. And it's not so much Street Fighter 2 itself as it is the foundation that it's set as well, because right up to Street Fighter 5, it's been such a core element of some of the closest friendships I've ever had throughout my life. Like, I remember one of my best mates in Wolverhampton, who I've known since primary school, still knows to this day, we got Street Fighter Alpha on the PlayStation, and it had dramatic battle mode where you were Ryu and Ken at the same time fighting Bison. And we just did it over and over again, literally till sun up.
Yeah.
Like literally brackets till the break of dawn. Just think, and there's always a moment where Street Fighter factored into some cool element. The only time it took a break was university, where Tekken 3 took over, which is why I've got the Jin Kazama tab.
Oh, that's sick.
But apart from that, it's always been Street Fighter 2, and I think Street Fighter 5 was a dip, but Street Fighter 4 was such an amazing return to form as well. I just think there's so many other great fighters out there, but fundamentally, like, Street Fighter is the one, man.
2 is the particularly iconic one as well. I think that people
it's
will
the one where they
it's the one that everyone goes back to.
But it set the template. Like, there was nothing else like it really until Street Fighter 2, when it was like, let's have this diverse range of characters with different skills and different abilities and really interesting backgrounds where they're just as interesting as the fights themselves. And then they started giving the fighters backstories, and you really dug into the mythos of who the fighters were and what their relationships were. And it's unavoidable now that everything that's come since, Dead or Alive, Tekken, King of Fighters, Mortal Kombat, they've all had to lift from that template. So Street Fighter 2 is such a it's the foundation of like an entire genre.
It's also hard. Like, I can remember picking it up I think I got it on like the PS1. It was one of the many like remakes of it, I think, that came out. And just and having played things like Tekken, and going into it, I was just like, fucking hell, this is hard. Like, just do it. Like, I can remember trying to do a Hadouken for the first time and just like, I thought this was going to be the easy move. And just like my thumbs were like in pain after playing it for like an hour.
And then it was, now do a Dragon Punch, and you're like, oh,
yeah, exactly, yeah. No, that's great.
I suck at Street Fighter. It pains me to say I just suck at Street Fighter. They're great games, but like, oh man, just give me Tekken. I can smash.
Yeah. Get Yoshimitsu jumping up and down on his sword.
Pick Eddie, press kick.
Yeah.
Eddie or Law, and just start flipping about. And you're fine.
Tekken's great.
Get away with anything.
All right. Well, that's everything we've kind of got time for, I believe, on this podcast. We've kind of chewed your ears off, and that's not a phrase, is it? Chewed your ears off? We've chewed your ears off enough, Dan.
It is for Mike Tyson. I don't know if anybody else can.
Very good. And I mean, from what you said, you've got to go now, squeeze in about 3 hours of gaming until 1 a.m. So
yeah, what is it now? Yeah, coming up to 10. This is my time.
This is my time. And with that, he leaves. Dan, thank you so much for joining us. I've had a whole lot of fun. I don't want to speak for you, Mark, but do you reckon you've had a good time?
I've had a lovely time, and we do really appreciate you coming along and speaking to us today. So thank you very much.
It's been absolutely my pleasure. It's been really, really fun talking to you.
Oh, good stuff. How can people find you? Mark's genuinely touched by that. Dan, how can people find you on social media if they want to come check out your hot takes?
They can find me at MrPointyHead. Yes, I still use it. At MrPointyHead on Twitter.
Go give him a follow. And is there anything you'd like to give a little plug or a shout out to while you're here? Anything you got on the go? I'm
just trying to think. Well, my company, Explosive Alan, is a video production outfit. We make commercial videos for all sorts of game publishers. I'm just trying to think of something we've got out. But if any of you use Unity, down the line, you may see some interesting videos that we've produced during lockdown using remote video production techniques.
Oh wow!
Which will be a really great series of videos for newcomers to Unity and those who are just sort of interesting in perhaps creating their own games. And it's been a real joy to work on those. And for GameSpot US, I've done a few bits for them on Ninjala, Ghost of Tsushima, games like that. Legends of Runeterra, the League of Legends card game. Yeah, so we're all over the place. But yeah, head to explosivealan.com. You'll get a taste of what we do. And yes, just follow Explosive Alan on Twitter as well, and you'll probably see new stuff that we put out.
I'll just say I've gone to the website, I've had a little taste, and it looks like really good stuff.
Thank you very much.
Just saying that. So
we have a
do go check it out.
We do have a podcast as well, which has been on hiatus during this, just because we've all got kids.
Right.
We've all been crazy busy. But we've got about 105, 106 episodes of it. Ooh. So go and listen.
Is it kind of similar, just games chat? Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of, the format's changed and shifted over the months and years, really. Sometimes we take these huge breaks because we've been exceptionally busy with work. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's largely game based. Sometimes there's film and TV chat as we try and mix it up. There's always some kind of quiz that we try and devise a different quiz or something every episode. Joe, you'll be interested to know that I used to sing quite a lot in the early episodes. I used to basically rewrite popular songs and sing about games.
Nice.
But with terrible production values. But
I might have to track down some of those episodes now just to give it a listen. Dan. You've sold yourself down the river there, I'm afraid.
They're rough. But yeah, I would do I would do David Bowie's Heroes, but make it about Ground Zeroes or something like that. I'm the Weird Al Yankovic of gaming podcast parody.
Wow, that's a lofty title to give yourself there, Dan. But
I'm absolutely not.
We can't disprove that, so I think we're all going to believe it.
There's no evidence. There's no scientific evidence to prove it, but it is fact.
Well, that has been episode. What are we on now, Mark? 5?
It's episode 5.
Thank you for that. That was episode 5 of Pushing Buttons. Thank you so much for listening. Do not forget to follow us on social media. Twitter, we are PB Podcast UK. Instagram, Pushing Buttons Pod. Subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. We are Pushing Buttons. Dan, once again, thank you for joining us. We've had a lot of fun, and we will see you next week.
Goodbye.